Does it have like a part? Yeah, there you go.
Hi.
That looks really cute.
Thanks. Lion.
Okay.
Rumi.
Okay, I'm gonna be serious. There you go. There you go. There you go. Look normal. Okay, that's how I hear it. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. This is our very first video. Baby. Is this gonna take us 3 hours?
No, we got it.
Okay. We have never filmed before. This is my set.
I don't know when I come in.
We're gonna introduce ourselves so that if you're new here, I don't know how you found this place, but I am Kimbyrleigha. I am a true crime YouTuber. This is my boyfriend.
I'm Jon. Her set is actually in my studio. I do a lot of music and film production at Jackpot.
So we wanted to sit down for a while and tell everyone how we met because we get questions about that a lot.
What a story. What a journey.
What a surprise we have in store for you today. But there is one caveat I wanted to say, and that is, I almost said our sponsor for today.
I know. I was like, who is it? Who's the caveat today? Tell us.
No. So I wanted to say, for those of you that know me from my main channel, I take my job very seriously and I consider that more of my job that I show up for. And this is going to be a channel that's not going to be as serious because we also have our everyday
We
life.
have so much to do with all of our videos, edits, all of my stuff.
Yeah,
We
so
do
there's
a lot.
a whole other world to everything that happens when you see it, when it's all polished and clean and beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is really important to me because I'm there for you. Those are stories about other people. And that's why I really wanted a place where I can just kind of talk about what we're doing and also get a lot of questions about where do you get your clothing, stuff like that. So anyway, we don't have to really go on too much about why we created this channel, but
Really for our memories, too.
yeah.
I kind of wanted to do this because we do a lot of fun stuff. I love filming and I love making little videos of us, and then this is like a place we can just store it for posterity, just look back on it.
So we wanted to tell you how we met, and we're going to start with, I guess,
Well, you go first because you knew about me before I knew about you.
this is true.
Go. Go on.
It's getting hot in here. I mean, it really is getting
Just
hot
like
in
the
here.
first time I saw you. Whew,
Baby.
so hot.
Are we ever going to be, or do we do alone parts?
We can. Do you want to do a lone part now?
So I wanted to set the stage for where I was at that time in my life. And this was 2019. So at the time, I was engaged and I was in that relationship. And I also have a daughter from a previous relationship, and she was about 8 years old at the time. I had a neighbor, we're going to call her Z, and we used to hang out all the time, and we both had kids, so our children would hang out. But I was always busy, and I was the kind of friend where you had to ask me 3, 4, 5, 6 times to hang out, but we lived right next door. Our balconies connected, so she was always like, come on, Kimber, come over, just have a fun time. And I was kind of too busy trying to get my YouTube channel off the ground. A lot of times I would decline the invitations. It was December of 2019, and she was having a little party. It was actually a divorcee party. It was just a bunch of ladies getting together who have all gone through divorces, and that wasn't me. I wasn't in that category. But since I was her neighbor, she said, you know what? We're having a girls' night. Why don't you just come over? I did remember having something to do that night. I think I was finishing up a YouTube video or I was making a thumbnail or something. So I brought my computer over there, my laptop over to her house, and we were having wine, hanging out, having the girls' night. And then I would kind of go to my computer, do a few things, and then go back to having a fun time. So now to how I met Jon, or how I was made aware that he existed. So we have another friend. We're going to call her T. And she and Z were hanging out with everyone, and Z wanted another guy to come over that was our other next door neighbor. So they were contemplating how we could get a guy to come to an all-girls night, and T decided, hey, why don't I invite over one of my friends? His name is Jon. So Z and I had never met Jon before, but we'd heard about him a couple times. So Z was like, yeah, bring him over so that the other guy doesn't feel uncomfortable. So that is how I found out about who Jon was. So that is me setting the stage for when we first laid eyes on each other.
Okay, I come in. I have never met anybody at this house, nor have I even been there before. But I knew T. T invited me, so I obliged. As soon as I walked through the door, I greeted her, and I looked over to my left, and I saw a very beautiful girl sitting by her computer at a desk, the dining table, actually. I said, T, who is that? Oh, that's Kimbyr. She's a YouTuber, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, cool. That's fun. And I do a ton of creative stuff, so I was curious, like I wanted to talk to her immediately, just because I was like, oh, she does editing, she does this and that. Looking around, all these divorcees, she looked like really, obviously the prettiest one, but the only one with anything interesting to say. So I immediately gravitated towards her, and I began to strike up a conversation with her. And I think I introduced myself, and she seemed very uninterested at my approach.
I wanted to point out that night, I came over there thinking that I was going to be with all girls, and I was engaged. So there was no reason for me to get dolled up or anything. My hair was in a bun. I remember that.
Cute
My hair
bun.
was in a bun. And I just saw him come in. I kind of like glanced over at the door and then looked back to what I was doing. And I do remember him coming over. You introduced yourself. We did start talking about, you didn't just automatically be like, oh, you do YouTube?
I think I said, like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And then I was like, oh, whatever I was doing, like making a thumbnail or editing something. I think I was editing something. But he briefly, and there's a reason I'm saying briefly at this point, he briefly said what he did, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I wasn't trying to like talk to guys, but I'm going to be friendly regardless, especially because it's one of my friend's friends. And that is how the night started.
So I remember just talking to her about, like, I came over to her because, she's had her computer. I'm like, what is she editing right now? And she was. That's really cool that she's doing work or doing something that she's passionate about instead of fraternizing and kind of wasting her night. And I'm kind of much the same way. I'd much rather be locked up working, and because I love it, and it's not really work when you have fun doing it. I wanted to know what she was doing, and I think she said she was working on the thumbnail, or you were editing or something.
Yeah.
And I think I remember you saying, because I remember leaving, and I think I was like, I don't want to spend too much time and like annoy you, so I'm gonna kind of walk away and then do something else.
Yeah, you were with the other guy.
Yeah.
And I saw you took a selfie, which we can put up on the screen and
Oh,
blur him
yeah.
out.
Yeah, because he was the only guy there. So I
Right.
was like, I'm going to get to know this dude and like hang out with him.
And they
'cause-
didn't know that we kind of orchestrated that there were going to be two guys there.
Yeah.
So that it didn't feel uncomfortable. So they were talking. I remember that, kind of looking around. But when it got really fun,
Yeah, I think everyone started to leave.
and it was just TZ, me, you, and like a couple other people.
Yeah.
And we were starting to do what we normally do, which is like witty, funny, just hilarious times where we're just like our stomachs are hurting laughing so hard. And I was like, wow, he has the same sense of humor that I do.
Yeah.
And I gravitate towards people that also have that sense of humor. So all of that little group of us four, we really just all had a really fun time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to getting out a lot. I wasn't used to having friends. I'm not from California. He is.
Yeah.
So all I knew here really was like my fiance at the time, my daughter, and like some of the friends I had from working in corporate. But at that point, being a YouTuber, I was really lonely and didn't really have many friends. So that was the first time I felt like I connected with a group of people. And I remember at some point, just because we were having so much fun, we were doing the People of Walmart coloring book. And at some point, I did get your number, which again is kind of weird because I normally, and this is true, like I normally would not get a guy's number, and there's more to that in a minute. But we exchanged numbers, and I still have the same picture
Oh, yeah.
as your profile picture that I haven't changed. This.
Oh, yeah.
It was like him playing a guitar.
Yeah.
There's a story behind why I'm telling all these little details. But like,
I can't wait to hear the story.
I saw this picture because what happened was when you went to give me your number, it
Auto-populated.
however that does that, it was like it had all of his name. Oh, because you shared your contact with me. So I just remember looking and I was like, oh, he's got a guitar or something. You know, you just like think something about it. So I remember by the end of the night, I was sort of like, yeah, we should all hang out again. And I truly meant the group. I did. I truly, because this,
I know.
you have to also understand there was like a progression. We were genuinely just friends. Like we were just having a good time. So the next time I remember him texting me, we only exchanged maybe like one other text before that. And it was New Year's. It was 2020 and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he texted, Happy New Year. He was with his girlfriend at the time and his best friend at dinner. And I was with my fiance at the time and all of my friends. We were just celebrating. And I remember texting you and saying back, oh my gosh, we should hang out sometime. Totally ghosted. Like, and I mean, that's fine because really I was just honestly just trying to be nice. Just because, you know, I had a fun time with him. But I was like, wow, you know, it's great. We should like do something together. And
Crickets.
yeah, there was no response. Like totally ghosted me.
I think I was like on and off again relationship, right? So yeah, I guess I was at this Indian restaurant with my best friend. I was thinking about, wow, what a fun night I had. I met a new friend and to which I had such an amazing conversation, a good night. So I wanted to, you know, kind of reach out. Yeah, obviously. Obviously I was thinking of you. And then I think I ghosted you because I'm like, wait a minute, I got this on again, off again girlfriend. I don't want to come on as something. I'm not too sure, right?
Yeah,
like,
we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like trying to go back and feel what our intentions were, it's hard to gauge because
Yeah.
it's like there was so much going on. But one thing that we did have in common was we were both in long relationships that were not working out, and we had both known that our relationships weren't working out, and I think both of us felt very similar from what I now know, where it's really hard when you're in a long relationship. I think mine was from, 2013, 14, because it was at the end, till we got together. But at that point, that was how many years? Like 5 years or something, or 6 years? So altogether,
mine was 7.
Yeah. And you just kind of know, but it's hard when you're in a long relationship because you don't know how to get out of it because there's so many strings attached and moving parts. And like with me having a daughter, it was really complicated. And we were both kind of, I think, staying in those relationships because it's hard to get out of relationships.
Yeah, sometimes you get lost in contentment and you're just like, well, this is it. I've been doing this for so long. Like, why? And as I was also so much younger, and, you know, those relationships definitely taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Definitely strengthened my ability to create a awesome relationship for us, or at least for, you know, my own way being in this relationship. Always appreciate where you came from. And then, so, okay, I ghosted you.
Yeah, but I didn't feel that in the moment because I was so busy.
Right.
And I was in a relationship, so I wasn't thinking of it like that. I actually didn't notice that until years later when I found our old text messages on an iPad of mine that I opened up when we were already dating. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's so weird. He ghosted me. That's so funny. So I found it to be like humorous.
Wait, then how did we get back in contact?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
So as you all know, 2020 was a little of a weird year for a lot of us, and we didn't know what we were going to expect. In the new year, I thought everything was going to be great, and just for the record and understanding this whole story, I was actually supposed to get married in 2020, so my wedding was supposed to be in December of 2020. So there was a lot of things going on in my life at the time, and it's going to sound hard to understand, but a lot of you have been in these kind of relationships where you're kind of going through the motions and you don't really know what you're doing. You don't spend the time to really reflect. I wasn't happy and I didn't know how to become happy. So I would try to fill my life with things that I thought would make me happy. So during 2020, my group of friends, ZT, me, and like a few others, we would get together because we would all test and make sure like we didn't have COVID and stuff like that. So we made our little quarantine and we would joke around that it was okay if we all hung out. And like I had told you, Z had a child and so did I. So we would all get together during 2020. So this is when I really started hearing about Jon a lot because then I was spending a lot more time with Z and T. So while I was over there, they were both going through divorces or were already divorced. But the gist of it is that they would always be talking about how amazing this guy Jon was. And I had met him, like I had said, I had met him once, but I really didn't get to know him or anything. I just knew him from that one time. So what I'm trying to explain in this moment is that I was hearing about him a lot. There was just a lot of things. There's just a lot of things being said about him. And I was just it was going in one ear and out the other because, again, I was in a relationship. I wasn't really seeing him in any sort of way like that. But I was a good listener to my friends, and it seemed like both of my friends liked him, if you know what I mean. So it was a little bit annoying because it is really important in the story that I was hearing about him a lot and all these wonderful things about him and maybe some not so wonderful things about him. And I was sort of, like I said, just being a friend and just saying, oh, okay, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, had my little quarantine too, but isn't it funny how all these little quarantines kind of intermingle with each other? So are we all really just hanging out anyways? I know. But yeah, I was hanging out with T. I had a couple friends that also hung out with T, so we would all hang out. T was this middleman between
all of
Kimbyr
us.
and I.
So I would hear them. Okay, 'cause I told you my balconies were connected. Z and my balconies were connected. So there would be nights when I was bored and I was just like hanging out in my living room, and I would hear them having fun, like laughing.
Oh yeah, I would go over. T and Z would always hang out, and I guess they would always invite her, but she would never go.
I would never say, but he would be
so
invited.
I would always be invited, and I had nothing else to do, so okay, cool, let me go have some drinks and hang out with T and Z. And I had never really thought about her because I'm like, oh, she got a fiance, whatever, that friendship, that ship has sailed. And
I was never around.
And she was never around.
They were hanging out, and I could hear them hanging out, and I thought that was cool. But I was also pretty annoyed with them sometimes because I was trying to work. I was trying to be serious, and then I would hear these loud, just them having fun, which is fine. Also, I was a little bit concerned about COVID because my daughter was an actress back then, and so she was doing a lot of auditioning, and we had to test every other day, and I didn't really want to mingle with people because then she would lose jobs. And she ended up getting COVID I think it was in May, and she got it from Z. So and she blamed it on you.
Yeah, she blamed it on me. I didn't get it, or I did get it.
You did get it.
I did get it. I don't know who I got it from.
So I was always hearing about him in one way or another. I was always hearing something about Jon, whether it was good or bad.
Mostly good.
Mostly good. So there were a couple times I did show up when he was over there, but it was very brief. It was we hung out, had some wine. We were just chilling, all four of us. So there weren't many times for you and I to talk. It was more we're all just having fun.
The kid's birthday party. Oh, it was your birthday party.
That was later, baby.
That was later. Okay, I'll let you tell the story.
My wedding got canceled. It was on a cruise. So clearly, if you remember back when all the cruise fiascos were happening, they just basically canceled my wedding. And, it was hard, but I just never really... I don't know. I just wasn't feeling right about the whole situation at the time, and that's as far as I can really say. But it got canceled. So now I just want to set the stage for what's going to come up next, which is we hung out for the first time, where we were just really talking.
Mm-hmm. Set the stage. I'm excited.
Getting to know each other.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, it was bad first. It was a bad night.
Joey's?
No, baby. We didn't even meet yet.
Oh, you're talking about you?
Yes.
Oh, you're setting the stage for how we met. It was a bad night.
Yeah, why?
Got it, go.
Who else was I meeting?
I don't know.
Who else was I meeting?
You're trying to set the stage? Set it.
I am.
I'm confused.
Okay, go away again.
Oh.
I have to tell the bad part. All right, so now we're at October 2020. My wedding's been canceled. My relationship is in a very, very, very bad spot at the time, and I wanted to break up. I had talked to so many of my friends. I had even talked to my daughter. I didn't really know what to do. But that night, it was right before Halloween. It was a Halloween party, and Z was throwing a Halloween party. I was excited because guess what? In Los Angeles, they canceled Halloween. You were not allowed, or you would get fined. You were not allowed to have candy for trick-or-treaters. So I felt bad because I have a kid. And now I felt like there was nothing for her to do. And that's our favorite holiday because my daughter was born on October 28th and brought home on Halloween. So I've always made a big deal about Halloween and her birthday. So I bought matching outfits for my daughter and I. Super cute. I'll put them up. We'll put up things on the screen for you guys to see them. But that night I decided to go over to Z's and have a fun party with all of our friends. And we were also going to have a fun trick-or-treating event where all of our friends would organize their homes where the kids could come inside and get candy. So it was really awesome and so thoughtful that everyone got together and did that. Well, that night, my fiance at the time, he definitely didn't like Z. I was having a terrible night. I had told him I want to break up, and I considered our relationship over, and it was bittersweet. A part of me was really happy because I felt like, okay, finally I'm free from all this. I can move on. I can do things that I want in my life. I can feel like liberated and independent. But on the other hand, I was really scared because I didn't know if I'd have to move back to Florida because I'm not from here. I don't have family here. And so what I'm setting the stage for is that I am going to bump into Jon at this party. And it's going to really change a lot of the ways I see him, the way that I felt. And still, there's going to be a lot of time between the time we actually get together. So it's just interesting. So when I first went over Z's, I was actually crying. I was not having a good night. There were people trying to comfort me, people having conversations about relationships with me. And mind you, I'm at my neighbor's house. So at the time, my ex, who I just broke up with, is upstairs, right near where we were having this party. So it was very uncomfortable. And I couldn't wait until we went on to the next person's house. We were doing the adult party that night. So this was, everyone was going to different people's houses and just having fun. So we made it over to one of our friends' houses, and I didn't know many people. I don't get out much. I was sitting by myself with my little costume on, and I see Jon coming through the gate of this backyard. And so I look over, and I'm excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, a person I know. Because T and Z were there, but they were hanging out with their friends, and they're older than me. They're 10 years older than me. So they have a lot of other friends, and I'm just sort of like the tag-along friend.
Okay, I was invited to go to this Halloween party by T. I didn't really want to go. I think I was working on some stuff, but I believe T said that Kimbyr was going to be there, and I was like, okay, well, I can go. I haven't seen her in, I don't know, it felt like a year. I go to the house, and I walk through the door, and I run into my friend B. And B and I start talking, and he's like taking up a lot of my time talking, and I just come through the door. He's the only person I've seen. It's been about 10 minutes, and I'm like kind of looking around wanting this, I'm in like these verbal handcuffs, and I want it to end because I'm like looking to see if Kimbyr's here, and I keep looking around and I don't see her. So I ease into the conversation, and then Kimbyr comes up and taps my back. I turn around and she goes, hey, and she had these big wings and she was dressed like a bat. And I'm like, oh my God, it's you. I didn't know you were going to be here. Because I looked and she wasn't there, but she was there. I was so excited to see her. I immediately forgot all about B, and I think he left, but I just continued talking to Kimbyr. And I didn't stop talking to you.
Excuse me?
I didn't.
And this is why I like it.
I didn't want to leave your side all night. I wanted to talk to her. I was so excited to see her. I don't know. I came to the party and I didn't really know anybody either besides T and Z, and they were out doing whatever. Z was extreme that night. And yeah, and then it was so refreshing seeing her that entire night. I didn't leave her side. I didn't want to, and I was so kind of excited that she was like really excited to be next to me and talk to me. It wasn't like me just trying to have the conversation with her. It was a very reciprocal conversation, and this is one of the best nights I have ever had.
So I remember this was the first time I got to know what he did, who he was, because before we would just kind of be silly and hang out, and we wouldn't really get one-on-one conversations or anything.
Yeah, and that was one of the coolest things. We actually got to talk.
Yeah, we got to
and
talk
not
to each
just
other.
like skin, like a surface level conversation, not superficial.
We were both going through, I guess, breakups. Basically, that's what we first started talking about. And we didn't really go in deep with it. I just told him like, hey, I just broke up with my fiance, which was kind of a big deal. He knew what was going on, essentially. Like, he knew that I was engaged. So I told him that. And then he also kind of confided in me a little bit about his relationship and what had happened there. And we were talking about everything. We talked about how, like, I used to sing in bands when I was younger, and then he was telling me that he made music. I didn't know that. I never asked about him. Like, I never had a chance to find out anything about him. So I realized like we had a lot in common, or at least I thought we did. I think we still do. So I feel like
we definitely still do.
I felt like we had a lot in common. And the funny thing is, something that had happened that I hadn't really explained thus far.
What?
Was as Z was getting to know Jon, because remember, Z and I met Jon at the same time. As she was getting to know Jon, she knows me. She had known me for like 3 years at the time. She would kind of every once in a while just make a comment. She would say something like, oh my gosh, Jon does that too. Or like, you guys are so much alike. And again, it would be one ear out the other. I didn't really know what she meant by that. It would kind of confuse me. Like, I know there were things that I saw, like, okay, he wears black. Like, there were like things about you that not even just you wore black, but just like your style that I was like, yeah, we have a similar style. We have a similar vibe. But that's kind of all I thought about. However, what they really meant is everything we know now. So as I was sitting there talking to him, I mean, we were making jokes. We have some of those, remember, like the turkey baster thing? 'Cause we had to make gravestones on like how we died. So we put those, and it was just cool that it was Halloween because it's one of my favorite holidays. And it made me totally forget about all the bad things that were happening.
Yeah. It's kind of an amazing thing when you hang out with somebody and then the conversation sort of allows you to focus on that moment and it blocks out everything else.
Yeah.
And it kind of, yeah, after that night, I needed more. Oh my God. Yeah,
and the funny thing is that B, his friend B, it's a mutual friend, but he thought we were dating because there was chemistry between us that other people would see. But I think we were just kind of, like I said, like in our own relationships and our own thing. But at that point, you have to remember, because it'll come full circle, that B actually thought we were already dating.
Yeah.
Like, he just assumed when he saw us sitting there, and we'll show you some pictures of like us that night with our friends. We'll blur them out, but like we'll show our friends and everything. We were just having a great time, and there definitely was chemistry there. And I think most of it has to do with just, I don't know, like there's just this, I just felt like I could be myself. Like I felt like I could tell him things, and so anyway, so after that, we went back to Z's. And we were sort of like winding down the night. Mind you, I told you this. I live, like this is my place and this is Z's place. And my ex is like right here. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And then so
I tried to kiss her. We had such a great conversation.
We were vibing so well with just how I felt around him that there were times where I was looking at him and I was like, and you did ask me to go back to your place, but it wasn't like that. You said, you want to go make some music, and at this point, your studio was in your house, in your condo.
Oh, okay.
So you said, hey, want to come? And I was like, I was not going to do it, because I knew, I was like, I'm not going to go to this. Because first of all, you're you're rebounding. Like, I didn't want it to be, oh, I'm sad about my breakup, and I'm going to go have sex with him, or something like that. But, obviously, when you asked me to go to your condo or to make music.
Especially considering the time.
Exactly. It was like 3:00 in the morning or something. It's like definitely not what
time to
I
make
would.
Music.
Yeah. Yep. Make music. I heard the stories.
Singing all kinds of falsetto.
I had been warned. Okay, so, and it is true. Like I said, a couple of my friends did think he was attractive and cute and funny, and they would talk about it. But clearly, he was not like dating them. But that was just a thing. So I always wondered why they liked you, because I didn't know him. So I was like, why do they like him so much? I don't get it. And it would actually annoy me. So that night, the next day, right, it was still Halloween. So the next day I went back over to my friend's house and I was helping her do her makeup for like another party she was going to in the daytime. And then we were going to have another party at night. So while I'm sitting there, she's like, oh my gosh, I have to send you the pictures from last night. Now, mind you, he tries to kiss me. I forgot, we gotta go. Okay, we're still there. We can still put this in. He came up to me, and I love that, like, you're the height where, like,
we're a perfect height.
Yeah. So it's not like I have to do anything. It's just you're there. So he went to go kiss me, and I was like, fuck, because for a lot of reasons. One, I didn't want to just jump into like a physical relationship with someone. Two, I'm going through a breakup. He's on and off and every other which way. So I just didn't, it wasn't right. Hard to tell what was going on, because in his mind, it's like, I broke up. He doesn't probably know where I lived. I don't think you knew what exactly was going on.
No.
And so he was following me to my door. He was following me to my door. And I was like, no. And I wasn't trying to be mean, but like, I just didn't feel like it was right. This whole situation just started to get uncomfortable for me. So I said no. And then he texted me, and I'll never forget this. You were like, can I meet you at your door? And I'm like, no, go away. Go away. So the next day, okay, so wait, you have to say what happened after that, because I heard one thing, and you might have heard another, because you were there.
I went back into the house.
But you were upset. Or, like, not upset.
I wasn't upset.
Not upset.
I was, like, bummed that you had to go. I was having such a good time, and then I was left with them again, my original friends. I was, like, so enlightened by our conversation, and now I'm like, oh, I gotta go back to this.
But you told them what happened.
I definitely told them what happened. I walked upstairs and said, I kissed Kim. And they go, no, you did not. I go, yeah, I did.
So the next day I went over to do my friend's makeup. So she says, one of the first things she says when I get up there was, so we heard something last night and I don't think it's true. And I was like, what? And I already knew what they were going to say, but I was playing it off like I had no idea what they were going to say. And she's like, well, Jon came back all giddy, all like happy, and says that you guys kissed. And I'm like, what? And I was like, no. No. And she's like, that's what I thought. I knew you didn't do it.
Man.
I knew you didn't do it. I said, no. And she goes, oh, Kim, he really likes you.
I do. It's true. Still do. I love you.
I love you. And I said, okay, well, I don't know what to say. Because I said, I'm in a situation. And mind you, I don't know what's going on with my situation at that time. It had been 1 day since the breakup. So everyone was in my ear. I had people saying, like, don't break up, give him another, like, there's just a lot of stuff going on. And so that day, there was another party that night. I didn't want to start a relationship out where it's just this physically, like physical relationship and we don't get to know each other. Because everyone's done that already. Like, that's how every relationship starts. It's like, oh, this person's hot. And then, I don't know.
And that's one of the coolest things is I've never been in a relationship before that the foundation of the relationship was a massive friendship. I've never dated my best friend.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest experiences ever.
I love you.
Like, it's amazing. I love you.
So after that night, I will tell you, I did have feelings for him. I don't know what those feelings were. I wasn't able to reflect on them because I had so much going on. But now looking back, when I go back through what was going on and I know myself well enough, I know I had some feelings there. But my friends also liked him. I'm not going to lie. Like, that was part of this thing, is that if you get to know him, you're going to like him because of his personality and who you are, and you're just going to like him. So it was hard because my friends were constantly talking about him. And at this moment is the moment I knew that I had feelings for you of some kind. I don't know where to categorize them, but I started to get really annoyed when people would talk about you. I would start to get mad. And it was weird because I knew I couldn't be with him. And because I also didn't know how old he was. I thought you were like 25. I really didn't know how old he was. And so we're only like 4 years apart. 3 or 2? What are we?
I'm
36, we're 4 years apart.
7? No, 4? No, 5.
5 years apart. We're 5 years apart. So I thought he was like 25. But anyway, yeah, he's not. He's 36 and I'm 41. So that night, my friend Z, she was like, hey, let me show you all the pictures from the night before. And I was like, oh, great. And then she's going through the pictures and she's like stopping on Jon's photo. And she's like, oh my God, his long hair.
I had longer hair. I just got
Doesn't
it
he
cut.
look like Jon Snow? And I was getting so annoyed. Like, I was like, and I flat out said it, but I was jealous.
Sure.
I don't know why I was jealous, though.
Say it. It's funny.
No, I'm going to say it.
I don't know why you're jealous.
Because I liked you, but like, I liked him and I knew I couldn't have him.
It was like a Romeo and Juliet story.
Because I knew, like, I wasn't in the right frame.
Mindset?
Like, it wasn't right. And I knew I couldn't have him, but then I was like, what if my friends have him? Or like, I don't know. It was just weird. I didn't even care either because it's not my business. But she was like, da-da-da. And finally I just said, listen, he is not all that. I don't know why you like him so much. Like, come on. I was like, it's getting, it's like you take away his hair, take away his black nail polish, take away his clothing, take away
his hair, take away his personality, take away his clothing, take away his nail polish. You got bones. He's just a sack of skin.
I was like,
why are you dating bones?
Why do you like him? Like, he's not anything. And she's like, oh my God, you're right.
He wants to date a sludge on the floor.
Yeah, so
just a sack of meat. That's all I am.
That might have been two things. It might have been me projecting, like, get away from him, even though... But it was also me just trying to tell myself this stuff. So I was like, yeah, he's, I was like, no, he's not. So I texted him a long text. And I said, the gist of it is basically, that was such a good one. I wish we could read it to them. Maybe I'll just do a voiceover next time. But I sent him this long text. And remember, I wanted you to read it in a British accent so it would seem a little less.
Yeah, and I did.
So I sent him a text, and I wanted him to imagine reading it in a British accent because it would sound a lot less putty-downy.
Putty-downy. She said it. She took me out back with that text message.
Yeah. And basically, essentially, I was saying, you know what? It's just not the right timing for me, and I don't feel comfortable, like, going forward right now.
But there's still a chance. You said would like to be friends, right?
Because I did.
Right. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, you're going through you were with this guy, off with this guy, whatever.
But I was also hearing things about him. Like, that next day, I was being a fly on the wall because I did like him, but I was listening to what he was doing. And I would hear all these different stories, and I knew he was going through, like, a breakup. I knew that she was kind of living with you. She was living with you. And then it was, like, a drama with that. So it's like I didn't really want to get involved in that either.
Yeah.
Because I had my own drama, and I have a kid and everything. So it's just, I was like, I like him, but we're just going to have to be friends. And
with that text message, I read that as, okay, cool. I can just remain friends. And that's cool. Because I was transcending an old identity, let's call it, and starting to learn more about what I want out of life and, like, who I am as a person, and extremely down to be your friend and think nothing more of it and just be your friend. Because I had a great time with her, and, like, I didn't need to focus on girls, and I needed to do more of me. So with me and this new identity, along comes a old high school fling, came back on the scene into my DMs. And I was like, oh, cool, haven't seen her in a while. Let's call her C. And at this point, Kimber and I had not been speaking, and I don't even think we really saw each other much because I hadn't been hanging out with T, or we haven't been hanging out together. So I found a old girlfriend sliding into my DMs, and I opened it up, and that began a very interesting relationship for myself. I dated this girl in high school, and in high school I just wasn't... We dated for about, however long, but I didn't really give it any act like a good boyfriend in the relationship. I didn't care about the relationship. And now as I'm growing older, I'm like, I can give this another shot. So this was like the first relationship that I was like, okay, cool. I'm in this relationship. I'm going to do this. And the girl was just not, she was using me as like a rebound. But it was cool because I was able to practice the integrity of being in a good relationship because I had never done that before. I think because I was in a relationship, Kimber, that's what they call her, Kimber, they all knew that I had a girlfriend. So for some reason, because of that knowledge, we're all hanging out again. Right?
Yeah.
And with my girlfriend at the time, C.
It's a lot of plays in the game.
A lot of plays, and again, a lot of alphabet soup here.
So 2021 was a big year for me. It was the year that I transitioned into doing true crime. And that was a big deal. I was putting a lot of time, effort. I was working really, really hard. And I had a set inside of my bedroom at my house, and I had stayed with my fiance. It is what it is. There was a lot of intervention going on. There were a lot of promises being made. And I am really the type of person that gives people another chance. Like, I'm like, okay, fine. If you say you can do this, let's do it. So he knew. I mean, like, everybody knew. And my friends would always tell me that they thought I was with the wrong person. They would say, you're not with the right person. I can now see it, but when I was in it, I just was like going through the motions and I really wasn't thinking. But I found out he had a girlfriend because T and Z were talking about how he finally has this girlfriend and they're so cute together. And meanwhile, Z is having her whole patio redone where they used to like hang out. And T is doing it for them. And I see it over on my patio. And I'm like, I want my patio done. So then T comes and does my patio. So I'm starting to get to know T a lot more than I did before because Z was my friend. And now I was becoming friends with T. And she was really good friends with him from the beginning. So it stands to reason, the more I'm hanging out with her, the more I'm going to see him. So she had told me about him having a girlfriend and how he was, such a good boyfriend to her and doing all these nice things and stuff like that. And I was genuinely happy because I really didn't know you still that much. Like I knew I had that like feeling like, oh, I really like him, but I had never met his girlfriend before. And it was the summer of 2021. It was around the summer of 2021. And T and I were hanging out and we were working on a bunch of projects together, including plans to make this set. But this set was going to be in my house. And she tells me about this event that was going on one night. So her and I go to the event. The thing is, before he got a girlfriend, he was hanging out with us again. Like he was going out a lot more because he was single. And before he got back with C, we would see him out and about. I would see him. We would have our 4 friendly, fun things where we would just drink and hang out. Now, mind you, he got this studio.
I'm single, I'm going out, I'm essentially living my best life. I am working for somebody and I am now getting extremely bored working for somebody. I don't usually work for people. I usually just kind of do my own freelancing thing. And a few of my friends started a thing and I wanted to be a part of it, and then it became extremely monotonous. We were building software and I called up my best friend Tarek and I said, hey, do you want to start a studio with me? And he said yes. So we did. The studio here in El Segundo, it's a multimedia studio. We have a recording studio. We have a sound stage for filming tabletops and interviews and with green screen and a white cyc. And there's a few rooms that we can build for like Kimbyr's set. Yeah, and also a podcast room. There's a lot of stuff we can do at the studio, and it's kind of like my playground. And we got this place during the pandemic, which is kind of wild to think about starting a business in the pandemic, but it was perfect. It fueled my creativity. It gave me a place to get out of the house and go to this office where I can just create stuff all day long. Life was really cool. Well, you got to bring people into your studio. We had a lot of parties here, trying to show the place by inviting people over to have a few drinks in the soundstage, maybe get your picture taken. We were inviting a lot of people here, and a lot of the people who came were T, Z, and Kimbyr.
So at this point, it's 2021, like he said, and he has this studio, and I was invited over there. T and Z called me up a few times, and they're like, hey, he's got this new studio. We're going to go over there because T's helping him to like design it. And, that's what she was doing with me too. She was doing my patio. She was doing Z's patio. So I start hanging out more with T, and we start going over, and I'm getting to know him more and more. Like mostly just really love hanging out and having a good time. And at this point, the relationship I was in was even worse, if that's even possible, but it was worse. And I was doing a lot of things. I was juggling my YouTube channel and all the responsibilities that came with that. And I didn't have a lot of time, but when I did have free time, I really liked to go out with Jon and T and Z. So what ended up happening was that from T and Z getting to know us, they both, and I don't know what they would say to you because I told you this, and I don't think they said the same things to you as they did to me, but they would make little comments here and there. Like one of the ones they would make, they would say we were both with the wrong people. And they would say like, if only he could be with the one he really should be with. Like stuff like that. And I was like, and I wouldn't even give it. I would just be like, okay. It would be in my head, but I'm like, why? But anyway, so eventually he gets a girlfriend. I hear about it. And I meet her for the first time because T invited me out to an event in El Segundo where his studio is. So I went to El Segundo and I hung out, and we bump into him and his girlfriend. So I remember I'm used to Jon being like very friendly, very outgoing, very like, just fun. And we walked past him and he was like, and I was like, hi. And he was like, hey. And that bugged me it did. I don't know. Like, I didn't know if she didn't like me and she didn't even know me. So yeah, but to be fair, so we we hung out with them a little bit. We walked back to, I think, the studio, and I introduced myself, and we met. We did end up hanging out together.
Yeah.
We all hung out together, and we got along great. And I was actually friends with her. I mean,
Yeah.
like, we didn't hang out outside of John's, parties and whatnot. But now it became really comfortable because you know why? I was like, you know what? He has a girlfriend. I have a fiance. Everything's cool. We can all be friends. And I was having so much fun because a lot of the things on my mind were, I have to be serious. So one night, it was his girlfriend and him, T and Z and all of our friends, and his roommate. And we all went out and we just had a great time. We went to some bars, and I will never forget this. So I'm sitting at one of the tables in this bar, and y'all were being cute. You were. Like, you and C were being cute. And there were some guys at the table, and you were telling them how you and her met. And I was just, like, listening to the story, like, and I was thinking, like, oh, they're cute. They're cute together. They're really nice. Like, I like how they are, and I think they're a cute couple. And I was trying to get to know her, and I could tell, like, she was a little bit uncomfortable with all of us there because all of us, we're very talkative and loud, and we're a lot to be around.
Yeah.
So someone on the outside where it's like we're all friends, and then I could see how that would be annoying.
Sure.
But I listened to his story, and y'all were just like, oh, we knew each other, and da-da-da-da, and it was cute. It was cute. So we went back, and we all hung out at his studio. And I remember that night, his girlfriend, they had been dating for a little while. His girlfriend told me she didn't think that you really, like, wanted to be in the relationship. I'm just telling you.
I know. I'm like, what? How?
And then so it was weird because I just felt like I was a little bit in the middle. And then I went and talked to him, like, by ourselves.
At this, you have to, like, understand where my mind is. This whole time, I'm thinking that my girlfriend didn't want to be in it. C didn't want to be in it. And, that, to what I found out, that's the whole thing. But I go and say, like, hey, can I talk to you? And we go into the recording studio bit of the studio, and we just sit down and talk, right?
We're across from each other, and we're talking. But I was getting personal with him about their relationship because I was trying to be helpful. So I was like, are you guys doing this or doing that? And it just seemed odd. So I remember in that moment, I was trying to give him advice on his relationship, but I couldn't help but feel like, oh, if I was his girlfriend, I would be doing this. And I'm like, why am I thinking if I was his girlfriend? Because I remember thinking that. So I was like, and the minute I was thinking that, and we were pretty close. I mean, the minute I was thinking that, T opens the door.
Yeah, what the hell?
And she's like, what are you guys doing in here? And I was like, because really, we weren't doing anything inappropriate.
No, we were literally just talking.
That thought wasn't even in my head. Like, that thought wasn't in my head.
That thought was definitely in your head.
What do you mean?
Oh, that thought. Never mind. That thought wasn't in your head.
No, that thought wasn't in my head.
Me dating me was in her head.
Oh, dating you was in my head, but not... But again, I wasn't thinking that was actually ever going to happen. It was just a thought. So ultimately, what ended up happening is I think they were going through some back and forth. Like, not breaking up or anything, right? Or were you?
I wanted to break up.
Z was moving away, and it was kind of sad because, my daughter was friends with her child, and she says we're going to have a going away party, and we're also going to have, like, a going away sale, and it was really fun. So remember, this happened first. So my birthday happened first. So Z and my daughter decide to throw me a little birthday party, and Z and my daughter decided to throw me a little birthday party. So this was 2021. And I didn't have any idea he was going to show up, but since we'd all been hanging out a lot, he comes to my little tiny, surprise birthday party. It was really cute. And, everyone's taking videos. We probably have some of those we can put up on the screen.
Yeah, we had so much fun. Because I had this new studio, I was here all the time working, trying to create projects, trying to fill it, with clients or whatever. I would kind of barely go out, but whenever T or Z called me and said, hey, do you want to go out? No, I don't want to go out. Well, Kimbyr's going to be there. I'm coming. And
they were doing the same thing to me because at this point they had realized, like, we would make a good couple, but both of us were not in it. Like, both of us were in our own things.
But I was just so drawn. I wanted to see her, like, all the time, and only as a friend, just because I had so much fun with her, and I knew she was in her relationship with her fiance, and as far as I was concerned, she was never going to leave it.
Right.
So we were just, like, really good friends, but it was kind of taboo because, I don't know, we couldn't, like, hang out alone.
No, we never hung out alone.
Yeah, we never hung out alone. But whenever there was a group and somebody invited me, I would only go if Kimbyr was invited.
And the
or
funny
Kimbyr was
thing
going.
is, we didn't know any of this until after we got together. But what happened is, my friends started to realize that there was something there, like there was chemistry between us. So they would say I would be working. I mean, I worked like 80 hours a week, working on my videos, working on my scripts. And I remember there was one night, I think it was that night that we all ended up going out. They said to me, "Hey, do you want to go out?" And I'm like, "I can't go out. It's midnight. Like, I have so much to do. I've been sitting." And they're like, "Okay, never mind." They're like, "Well, John's going to be there." I kid you not. As they were saying Jon was going to be there, I was starting to get like dressed. And I'd be like, "Okay, no worries. I'm going." And again, like, I know it's, for some people, this may sound like, "Oh, you guys were in relationships and you were," but it really genuinely to me was not like that. I had so much fun, and I couldn't really put my finger on like what exactly it was. It was just like, I liked being out with my friends. That's what I correlated it with. I was like, you know what? My friends get me. But over time, I realized, you know what? When Z moved away, when I wasn't hanging out with T, I was like, I still miss hanging out with him. And I realized, you know what? I think it's him.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it didn't really matter about my friends. It was just, he was the ingredient that made me want to be there.
And I knew that, deep down I liked her, but I knew I could never be with her. And I just wanted to hang out with her because I did consider her like my best friend. And like, whatever, call it the friend zone or something. It wasn't like that because I was respecting her I didn't try to kiss her.
No.
And I was like, okay, cool, we're just friends. And I liked that because I genuinely she benefited me being in a friendship with her.
And we would, like when we would say goodbye or something, like he would give me a hug, but it was so, he had a girlfriend and everything. So it was like one of those, like, "Oh, bye, see you later." And I was just like, so there were moments where I felt like, oh, I wish I could hug him. And I was like, what do I mean by that? Like, these were thoughts going in through my head. Like, I was like, oh, I wish I could like hug him longer, but why? And so it was starting to be more of a thing for me. And I think one of the nights that it really was like my birthday night. We were taking pictures and we were closer, and there was like a feeling I got when I was near him. I liked it. I liked it. Yeah, I liked the feeling I got, and he was funny, and we had the same sense of humor. So I don't really find that many people have like the same. Like,
yeah,
like
just,
childhood things though. It's weird because we didn't grow up.
Yeah.
I grew up in Florida. He grew up in California. We have so many little inside jokes and stuff that somebody wouldn't get if they weren't him. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I have no idea how to explain it. One of these days we'll explain it, but it's just like, I'll be thinking something in my head and I'll say it and you'll be saying the same thing. It's just weird.
Yeah. Cut from the same cloth, so to speak. Yeah.
So I remember that Z was finally moving away and we had a garage sale. And again, I'm sure she was like, "Oh, Kimbyr's over here," or something, because she said the same thing to me. She was like, and I would now ask like, "Oh, who's going?" And I would sort of say it in a way. And she's like, "Jon will be there." And at this point, our friends, I think, had like resigned to the fact that like there's something there between us.
Yeah.
But they don't know what it is. And they had both like given up on the whole like liking you thing, because this is like 2 years from the time that 2019 thing happened.
Yeah.
So he shows up at the garage sale, and I was selling some of those. At the time, they were the TikTok viral
the butt scrunches.
Leggings. Yeah, the butt scrunches. Something when the butt scrunches first came out, and I hated them. So I was like, I'm selling these. So he, the person he is, tried them on. He was looking really cute, and we took this picture, or Z took this picture of us, and yeah, it was just all in good fun. Like, this was still at a time when you were with C, and you were with C because you were with C.
Yeah.
So we just had a really fun time together. But I also remember Z was having a going away party. So she invited me, and we all got together at the studio again. And that was a really fun night. We had sang a song together. Yeah. And the thing is, Z sent me a couple videos. One was the video of my birthday. And I remember thinking when I saw the video that you took, it was like you were, obviously I didn't know what he did for a living or anything, but he's obviously really good at, he creates all my ads for Facebook. He creates all my ads for YouTube and stuff. So he's really good at what he does. So it might have been that. It might have been just, he's really good at what he does. But when I was watching the video, I was like, does he like me or something? Because it was the way that somebody takes a video where they're like focused on you.
Yeah.
And I was like, does he like me or something? Uh-huh. But that was July of it was like June of 2021. July was when we had the party here at the studio. So we were singing together and he was playing guitar. That was the moment I knew that I liked you. I mean, there were other moments, but I think, I don't know. I just, like when I was watching that video back and I was like, why am I in a relationship where I don't have someone like that?
Yeah, same. Oh my God. Why did I waste so much time? But I'm glad everything happened the way it did. You know?
It had to have happened this way because I don't think it would have worked out if it didn't.
Totally. I love that I was essentially forced to get to know you.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I used to do in all my other terrible relationships. But I was so glad I got to know you and you became my best friend and now I get to date my best friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to marry you. I love you so much. Oh my goodness.
So we're almost to the point where we became a couple.
Lovers.
Lovers and friends. So
Lovers
it was
in France?
Lovers and friends.
Lovers in France.
Lovers in France. I've never been to France.
Cut.
So we, okay.
We?
No, we.
We. Here we go. Back at it.
Yeah. So that was 2021 July. Z comes back in town. She just moved away, but then she comes back in town because she's always going to be here doing something because she has a lot of friends here and she was, here for so long. So she comes back in town. She's just hanging out with me one night. And we go to El Segundo and his studio's there and whatnot. And I'm thinking of him because we're right near the studio. So I'm thinking of him. How can I not think of him? And I decided to tell Z, I was like, you know what? You should text Jon and see what he's doing tonight. I was in his neighborhood. I was where the studio was. I was on the same road as the studio.
Oh, yeah. T texted me and I was like, come out. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And then she texted me and I said the same thing. I was like, I'm coming.
Exactly. So right away, me, Z, and him were over at this place called Brewport in El Segundo. And he brought his roommate, S. So I met his roommate for the first time. And we all went out. We went to Purple Orchid. We hung out over there. That's like a bar. And then we all walked back to the studio again. But was that the same night as the guitar?
That was the same night as the guitar,
so
yeah.
that's how the guitar night happened.
Yeah.
So sorry I went in a different... So for me, what was happening in my life was things were going well with my YouTube channel. And I was looking to make a studio. I called on T again. And we started talking about it. And she was like, yeah, let's go ahead and start measuring the room. Let's start going shopping and get things together. Now,
I have a studio.
And he was redecorating over here.
Yeah.
So T was working for both me and him and also redoing one of his bathrooms.
Right.
So she was kind of coordinating all of us together and everything she had to do for the interior design.
And I found out that Kimber wanted to do a studio. And I was like, yo, why don't you just do it here?
Why don't you rent a space like in the studio? And I was like, wow, that's actually a really good idea. But baby, that was way further.
That was way further?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get to that in a minute. So basically, one day, I'm buying the red chair that's usually sitting here. I'm buying that red chair with T. And we're talking about colors for my studio. And we're doing all this stuff. And I said, how's Jon? Because I had not seen him in a little while. Since that July, I don't think I'd really seen you that much.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was getting into the fall. This was a little bit into the fall now. So I was like, how is he? And she's like, oh my God, I'm redoing his bathroom. I have to buy a few things for him. So I'm like, okay, cool. Then she goes, hey, I think he wants to go eat. I think we're going to all meet up and eat together. And I was like, okay. So
Oh, that's where we at, Hannah Rue?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He was
my
on
God. This is the
speakerphone.
first time I held your hand.
Yeah. So he was at Hannah Haru, which is another place near his studio. So T was like, do you want to go and have some sushi? And I said, yeah. So we all, me, T, and Jon, I was going to say Jay. Me, T, and Jay. I mean,
PB&J.
me, T, and Jon meet up at a restaurant right across from his studio. So she tells me, we're going to eat. So we all hung out. He was sitting across.
Yeah, I was sitting across.
He was sitting across.
And I don't know what I did. I did this one thing where I wanted her to hand something to me, I think. So I extended my hand, and then she just, rested her hand on it. And I was like, and I was filming it, too. I have that thing.
I was like totally chewing, mid-eating. I was like, wow, what an
And I totally
attractive
thought,
video.
I was like, oh, my God, I'm holding her hand. And I just thought of that.
Yeah, because we didn't really ever touch or anything.
No, never.
And the weird thing is, we would go where we hadn't seen each other, and it was every time we saw each other, I felt we were more connected. And I'm like, how is that possible if we don't even see each other?
Totally. Absolutely.
So I remember thinking that. And then I will say this, because this is my, version. T was like, oh, did you hear that one of his friends is coming? And I was like, oh. And I said, who? And automatically.
We're talking about other C.
Yeah. Automatically, I was like, who? And she's like, oh, it's his best friend from like childhood or something. C, not his girlfriend. So I was like, oh, who's this? And automatically, because I don't know who this person is, and I've never heard of this person before, and I've been hanging out with him for like a couple of years, never heard of this person. So I was like, how could this be one of his best friends? I don't get it. So we all get together, and I really felt like it was a weird pissing contest between like all of your friends. Because right when we got there, we were introducing each other or to each other, and this other person was like, well, we're da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, so are we. She was like, we're really good friends. I'm like, we are too. And so anyway,
Oh my God.
they had known each other for a long time.
That's funny.
At this point, he was still in his relationship, but I think it was like, coming to a close, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So then we all decided to hang out later that night. So we all went back and we hung out at his condo. And this was the first time I had ever been to his house.
Oh, yeah.
So all along, and this is really insulting, and I feel really bad that I felt this way about you because it's not my intentions to feel like he was living in a shoebox or anything. But I always thought of him as a really young guy who probably lived with like 4 roommates because it's expensive in LA. And then I come to find out like he has his own place and it's like really neat and nice and like cute. And I was like, oh, wow, like really impressed by this cute little spot he's got here. Because I remember when Z was moving away, she was giving away a lot of her beautiful plants.
That's
and
right.
I was redoing my patio. So I was like, of course they're going to give them to me. And they kept saying, we're going to give them to John. We're going to give them to John. And I'm like, what does John...
And she stole all of them.
I was like, what does John need with these plants? He's a boy. And I didn't
I
think
love plants.
that he had such good style. So we go to his house and we're hanging out with a bunch of us. There was like another guy there. There was T. There was C, his friend from a long time ago. And there was me. And you were sitting next to me. How we are now, just hanging out. I knew what my intentions were. I knew what was going on in my head of like where my relationship was going. And I kept telling all of my friends, especially like my best friend, I need to find a way to get out of this relationship. But I didn't know how. So this is kind of where the timeline is at the moment. He is hanging out with like his friend from a long time ago. And he's kind of figuring out his relationship. So we were almost in the same position.
Yeah, definitely.
Where we were both trying to figure out our relationships. And we were just sort of out there, not doing anything inappropriate, like not being inappropriate at all. But just knowing that there was something here between us.
Yeah. I wanted to be with her. I knew that I did, but at this point, because I started hanging out with her so much and like that like turned more into like a love, and I didn't know where to place it because she didn't want to date me, and it was clear that she's working out her relationship. So I don't know what to do with all of these emotions that I have no place for.
Well, at this point, unbeknownst to him, there was a lot of things that happened, and I decided I wanted to break up. But I was trying to do it in a way where, you know, it wasn't as like, but it was sort of like, okay, let's talk this out. So we were kind of back and forth. And he was staying with other people and giving us both of us time to just figure it out. Meanwhile, I was making plans to essentially move on, like figure my stuff out, new bank accounts, you know, everything you do when you're essentially breaking up with someone. So anyway, and I was dragging my feet because I had a lot more baggage in my relationship. Like we had like a whole house and things, and it was like a lot. So I knew I was going to make a breakup, but I just didn't want to get your hopes up either and say like, oh, I'm going to break up, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I had added him on Instagram not very long before this. Like I had just started really looking at him on Instagram, and I was starting to watch his stories. So you noticed I was watching your stories.
Oh, yeah. And I was really excited about that. I was like, oh, she's watching my stories. Because, I mean, people will watch your stories and you don't think anything of it. But because I liked her and she was watching my stories, I felt like she was going out of her way to watch my stories. And it made me really happy.
So I was watching his stories, and he knew I was watching. So you told me that you were creating more stories. He was like, oh,
I was creating more stories. That's right. I didn't really create stories at all. I was just I would just lurk on Instagram.
But I saw that he was looking at my stories. So I was like, oh, he's looking at my stories. And then I felt stupid because I was like, oh, God, I'm doing all this stupid stuff on my stories.
And when I did create a story and she would view it or like it or something, that made me want to create more so I can get that interaction.
Right.
So I did. I definitely started creating more stories just to get your
And
attention.
I was watching him. I remember he like went on a trip to Vegas with like his girlfriend. He was doing funny things like the flip cup thing and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's really cute. And so I was just enjoying watching his story here and there. And then what ended up happening, I had asked my mom to please send me my grandmother's skates because my grandmother was a champion skater and everyone was doing roller skating again. And I wanted my grandma's roller skates. So she sent them. I used to be aggressive inline skater. I mean, I was like really good at skating. I'm not going to lie. Like it's just, I think in my blood from like my grandma teaching me how to skate. But I wanted the skates. So my mom sent them to me. I think it might have been into the new year. I don't know if it was like at the end of December or beginning of the new year. It doesn't really matter. I posted a couple stories and also a post, but it was the story. So it was the story of me, you know.
Yeah, she's just cruising down the beach, and then I see it, and I think she looks really cute. And I respond with, what a babe.
What a babe. So the thing is, he had never flirted with me like that before. Honestly, like, he had never said anything outside of the lines of friendship.
Yeah.
And even though, like, I didn't know if he thought I was attractive. Like, I didn't know what his thoughts were. Like, I just thought we had a good time together. So when he said, what a babe, I was like, okay, like you think I'm hot or something? I was like, that's interesting. So after that, what did I say back? I might have just been like, thank you, or liked it or something.
I think you just liked it and moved on, yeah.
I had planned, there was this like 1 week where I was like, okay, I have to break up with my fiance. And I knew it was coming, and I knew there was this time frame where I wanted to do it. And he had been staying at friends, like I said, and back and forth, and we had been hanging out here and there, but we still were not doing anything like inappropriate or anything like that. But it was to the point where I knew I really wanted to be with him. And that was good because it gave me the mindset of like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. I'm not going to let myself not know what it's like to be with him because I've already had this other thing for so many years and just never worked out. So finally we went out one night. I wasn't ready to do it that night. But we went out in a group and I just felt like, because he was talking about going on a trip with someone else and like just stuff was happening where I just felt like, you know what, the longer the time goes by, then he might meet someone else, and that's fine. I mean, I can't stop him from meeting other people, but I knew I wasn't going to meet someone else because I didn't want anybody else. So I was like, I have to do this. So one night went out and like I was really emotional and everything, and I was just feeling so many things. I cried at the bar, and there's a lot of emotions going on and I don't do that. Like, I'm not really that type of person. Like, I keep a lot of my emotions like straight and narrow, but I just was so upset because I don't know, I just felt like between a rock and a hard place where I had to break up. I had to be clear about my intentions with the other person and then hope that there's something still be able to happen between us. And another thing I just want to mention is like, I was turning 40, and that was a big deal for me because I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but if by 40 years old, I don't have the type of relationship that I always dreamed about, why am I still doing this? Because it's like, I don't know, that's like a big turning point in a lot of people's life. Because you don't have much longer to figure out like your future with somebody else if it's not going well. So that gave me a lot of courage. And then one day, the next morning, I was like, that's it. This is the day I'm going to do it. And I did. I broke up with my fiance. It was hard, but I knew I had a lot of support. My friends were great. Even his friends were great. Like, people were helping me through everything. And then he was helping me through it too. One night I'm cooking. I'm having some wine. I'm talking to my best friend, Courtney. I can say her name. It's fine. I was talking to my friend Courtney and having some wine and cooking. And I jumped on Instagram just while everything's cooking. And he's out and he's wearing a like velour bodysuit. No, what
it's
is
this dope like tracksuit from this brand. Can we talk about the brands or no?
Yeah.
Whatever. It's this cool tracksuit. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's not velour. It's like some kind of Italian fabric. And it has this long zipper on it. Goes all the way down. It's so cool. I love it.
Long zipper that he unzipped all the way to here. Okay. So now, mind you, his like chest is showing. I've never even seen anything. I had never seen anything at all. Okay. And so I'm on his stories, and he's totally like thirst trapping for some reason. And he's got this shirt on. Yeah. And he had this shirt on. So in my state, okay, I just said yum.
Yep.
That's all I said.
I damn near threw my phone. It dropped. I freaked out. I'm like, what? At that time, when she said, oh my God, I freaked out.
What were you thinking?
I was like, no way. I even think I liked it, and I started freaking out.
What'd you think?
I was like, she likes me. Holy shit, that seals it. She likes me. And that just set. I was so happy. I was having like a bad night, but then this just like put me in a better mood. And I think I might have laughed. Like, I might have just came home.
I think you laughed at it. Like, you were like, haha, or something, because I was like, yum. And then, like, that's like really when we started getting to know each other.
Yeah. That kind of opened the floodgates for us to like start speaking more intimately.
I've always believed, like, I don't want to go through life not telling someone something. Like, what if I died tomorrow and you never knew that I had feelings for you? So it's just this very existential thing that I'm just need to get it off my chest. And I'm not one to really keep something inside anyway. So I felt that night I should just not play around too much and just like say like, hey, and I don't know the exact words I used, but
she used yum.
No. Oh my goodness. I'm talking about after that. I said something to the effect of, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I always felt like there was something between us.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wanted to know if he felt the same way, because if I'm only feeling this, then that's not real. It's just like something in my imagination. But if both people are feeling it, then that's something real. So I just put it out there.
Yeah, and that was well received. I can't remember the text. I'm sure we could dig it up, but I think I responded something to the light.
You said
of,
you do too.
I did too, and like I love that we didn't. I think I said this later, but I always think this is that I'm so glad we never rushed into anything. Like the first time I tried to kiss you, like you stopped me, and like just us being not forced to be friends because I wanted to be your friends regardless. More intimate things other than just let's get to know each other and build a strong foundation of a friendship. Mm-hmm. Is one of the coolest things like I've ever experienced, and like this relationship is the best I've ever had, and like the last relationship I'll ever have.
Aw, baby, I love you.
And it was cool because like at that point we could unlock a different level of communication that it's not like intimate, but like it was deep.
I realized how many, I mean, when I say like I realized how many things we had in common, I remember there were things that I was like, I know it sounds silly, but we were going back in time. Like I was telling him everything about me.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, me too, me too, me too. And not only were we saying it, but he was showing me pictures. So if I had a picture of something, he had a picture of the same thing. I mean, down to like, we had the same jewelry boxes and stuff, like the thing on the wall. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, what? And just the way that his style was, I was like, I've never met anybody that has almost exactly what I have. Like almost exactly the same everything.
Yeah.
So I thought that was weird because I never met anybody like that. Even another friend. Like, I don't know. I always consider myself a little eccentric and like not straight and narrow person. Like more like, oh, she's eccentric.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, we have so much in common. And then that's when I got to know him, because now he was telling me all about what he does for a living, like what it is. And this is when we really started talking about, why don't I rent a space here at the studio to put my set? And that's when T started helping design this. So I was over here a lot more, and we were hanging out a lot more, and our worlds were kind of coming together, and I was getting to know what he does. And that's when I realized, like, wow, we really have a lot in common. Like, I never used to trust anyone, like with my lights. I wouldn't even let somebody watch my videos, like if they weren't edited. And that was tough because I was in my own little bubble. And then when he started helping me with things, I don't have anyone to help me ever. I always do everything by myself. And so it was so nice that he spent time, like literally doing everything, like figuring out what lights would look best in here and figuring out how to work all of this. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do all this stuff because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. So, I mean, that's the start of like also our friendship and just, you know, me getting to know his character, and like how helpful and sweet and nice you are.
I love you. I'll do anything for you.
We'd hung out a couple times by ourselves at this point. One time we had a very...
Oh, Joey's.
Joey's.
We have this joke now because we got into this fight Because
No,
why the hell are we hanging out?
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
This is going to sound, because we have to go back.
Yeah.
So, wanted to get to know him more and more. He was now single. Him and C broke up.
Yeah.
And now it was like, I honestly felt like this was the only moment that him and I were ever going to be single at the same time.
It's a friend
We
date.
hung out one night together as friends. But there was this chemistry. And I got angry because he mentioned a girl that he was hanging out with already. It had been like a week. But to be fair, he's single. So like, what do I have any say in what?
May I? She's talking to me about her problems with her ex. And I'm going to go and say, I can relate. Let me talk to you about a girl that I'm seeing. She didn't like that.
Oh, I did not like that at all. I got mad and I just was like, F this. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. But the good part of that.
We have a joke every time we go out and we see a one person. No, never mind.
Like, no. So it was at Joey's in Manhattan Beach or whatever. It was at Joey's. And I kid you not, anytime we've gone to Joey's thereafter, something happens. Something happens.
We always get in some kind of like
It's like,
tiff or
yeah,
something.
we don't get in fights, but like whatever happens, it's like we are off. And
Yeah.
the other night we went to a place called Tony's, and I was like, is this gonna happen? And then we walked near a place called Charlie's, and I was like, why are there all these guy name places? I bet you if we go to these, but we didn't. We were fine at Tony's for the most part.
That's another cool thing I would like about us. Like every relationship, y'all like get into some kind of like debate or something, but the communication that I don't know that you practice from like
All your
building
other
a foundation. Well, that too, but like building this foundational friendship where you can then just feel okay talking and like getting, unlike what I'm trying to say right now, just being able to freely express something on your mind and being able to discuss it.
Yeah, I think it's really
insane.
important that relationships have a lot of communication. And I don't just mean like, oh, we talk. But I have so many people that I've known over the years that they can't bring something to their partner that they're feeling. I don't feel like that. I feel like there's been a lot of things we've had to go through. I feel like we have had, like, we've been in a 5-year relationship into a year.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot of things. Like, getting out of a relationship's a big deal. Moving is a big deal. Moving in together is a big deal. Then we went through IVF together. Like, all these different things have been very challenging. And we're also building businesses, our own businesses and then businesses together. And it's just a lot. It's a lot. I think it's more than like people go through in like 10 years sometimes with all the different things we've been through.
I wouldn't go through it with anybody else. No.
I love you.
I love you.
And we started hanging out. T helped us like organize a dinner together so that we could like really get to know each other.
Yeah.
And so that was really sweet because we had a little dinner and the kids were there, but the kids were like doing their own thing. And he and I got to spend time together for the first time.
Yeah. Because she also needed to introduce me to Shyla and like see if like Shyla and I get along.
Oh, right. So I have a daughter, and at the time she was 10, right? Mm-hmm. 9 going on 10. And that was a big deal. But they already knew each other. So that was the perfect part. You guys had already met.
Yeah.
They had already met a few times just from being over Z's house. So it was fun because it's like, oh, John's here again. And we sort of eased into, that John's going to be around and that I'm hanging out with him. And Shyla liked him right away for me because she could tell that we were fun. Like, we had so much fun together. There wasn't any drama. There wasn't any, like, just, it was fun. We all had fun. Even Shyla's so funny, and she just got along in the group. Mm-hmm. Just like a friend. Like, we were all having a great time.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
There was this point where we started hanging out every single night. She'd come over with Shyla. She'd come over without Shyla. And we just started to get to know each other so much more on such a deeper level because now we're spending time.
We were doing like the cards. I brought over like cards to get to know people.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
I
were
love
kind
that.
of fun because
They're a lot of fun.
it just like great for new relationships because it really opens up questions to ask each other.
So we're hanging out so much and it's clear that we are very much into each other but neither of us are like asking each other out. I don't know if it's appropriate. She just got out of a relationship. So I'm like, I'm going to let this simmer, but I'm just going to be here. And so Shyla.
One day, Shyla and I are hanging out, and being the little girl that she is, she's like, is John your boyfriend? Because she wanted to know how to title it. She wanted to know to say John or to say my boyfriend, and she just wanted to know. And I was like, I don't know. Let's ask him. And then I texted him.
She texted me, "Hey, Shiloh wants to know if you're my boyfriend," and I said yes. And I called her. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh, baby, I love
And then
you.
that was it. And it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm your boyfriend. You're my girlfriend.
We became boyfriends and girlfriends.
Boyfriends and girlfriends.
So one thing I wanted to say is that we are going to create more videos. And we met when I was 40. Like I said, he was 35 at the time. And now you're 36
See.
and 41. And so we are going to go into our next video, which would be why... Some of you already know, but like, why did we decide we wanted to do IVF? It's kind of a big deal. We're not married. There's just like a lot of things yet. There's just a lot of things that I wanted to say that I can't say on my channel, that I can't really get out in a community post. And I think there's a lot of people that are curious because they're the same, going through the same thing, or you're just curious because you're just curious.
Yeah.
So our next video is going to be about, you know, why we did that and sort of our journey into all that. And the outcome. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm glad we could tell our life story.
Yeah.
So we will see you in one of our next videos. Bye.